Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are here to savor life with Diana, our author, our life coach, speaker, and of course, she's also hosting some retreats. We're going to talk about that too, but she's here to help us get through so much. And today we're going to talk about true freedom and why maybe you achieve your goals, but still don't feel good enough. So she's joining us here today live to talk about, all this and more. But I did see this big retreat coming up in Hawaii, so I just want to start by asking you about that.
Yeah, so I'm hosting a retreat for a group on August 8th, which is for those of you who care about astrology. It's a Lion's portal. If you don't care, it's just a random Friday. And it's here in Honolulu. And what makes my retreats really unique is that they are not just personal development. It's like part personal development, it's part like cooking class because we actually cook and make food together. And I use food as this method of transformation. So we actually work it into some of the exercises that we're doing. We use it as just a point of reflection because sometimes I think that, like, especially when we've heard the same things over and over again, sometimes just spinning it, giving it a different kind of flavor creates like an aha or an insight that is just really powerful. So it's really fun because as soon as you walk into my retreats, any retreat you do, whether it's a group retreat or a private retreat, like a one-on-one event, um, you walk in as the version of yourself that you want to be. So like the dream version of yourself who's achieved, whatever it is that you want to achieve, like who's grown your business to whatever level or, like has the relationships or the health that you want. You walk in as that version. And there's something really, really powerful about stepping into the version of yourself that you want to be and not just being the person that you want. And so that's how the entire retreat begins is like you are this person and you get to be that person for the entire time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And let's talk today a little bit about the people who, finally maybe achieve their goals, but they're not really feeling the right way or the way they thought they should. So let's talk a little bit about this to start.
Yeah. So what I know about high achievers is that oftentimes we've done the things that seem impossible, right? We escape the cage, we leave the job, we leave the relationship, we move cities, we start businesses, we book vacations or trips, and sometimes we still feel stuck. It's like we have the freedom that we said was going to finally make us feel better, but like we don't actually feel better. It's like you're doing all the right things, but still
Facts.
waking up and like, your jaw is still clenched, your shoulders are still tense, your back still hurts, and you're still irritated, you're still unsatisfied. And I want to dive into that, like what's going on there, because I want to say some stuff that might sting a little bit, but I think is important because I think that what we do, many of us, is it's like you escape the cage, but you bring the chains with you.
In case we want to lock ourselves back up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what is it? What is going on? What is wrong? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, well, what it is, I find, is that we've mistaken changing things or achieving our goals for real freedom, and that's not actual real freedom. And a lot of times, right, like, I think about my client. I had a client, her name was Jess. She was in the military. She'd left the military, started her own business, moved to Hawaii, and from the outside, from the people living on the mainland, like it looked like her life was a dream, right? And I remember when I worked in corporate America and how many times I would hear people say like, "Oh yeah, I just want to move to like an island, open up like a little shack and I'll be happy," right? And knowing many people who've done that and having done some version of that myself, I could tell you that's not it. It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to all of a sudden make all your problems go away. Like I said, those chains are coming with you. And so it's this opportunity to really look and realize, like that something's different, right? And so Jess, she was noticing, like she was waking up still tense. Um, still worried because her client roster wasn't quite filled yet. She was having like what she called a trickle of clients as opposed to like, just the waterfall that she felt like she really wanted. She was still feeling like behind or not good enough, and honestly really stressed because entrepreneurship can be really stressful. So the thing is, right,
Hmm.
that changing our external circumstances is not really going to change anything, right? It's if our inner world hasn't been rewired, then we're just carrying all of this stuff with us. And I remember I worked for a little while with a relationship coach, and she would say the same thing about like your relationships. It's like if you think that you're going to find what you're looking for in the next one, in the next relationship, and you don't actually work through this stuff that's yours, you're just going to find that same pattern in the next relationship. So you've got to look for how are you going to actually make internal change, not just change everything surrounding you, right? That's changing the window dressing, right? That's rearranging the furniture. That's not actually moving. And if we really want to move, that's like an internal job. That is when we move from inside, when we change from inside,
Hmm.
everything else changes. But if you just put up new curtains, right? If you just like dust a little bit, like nothing's actually different. You still live in the same place. And that's kind of what I think of like when it comes to our mind is like you can get I cut my hair, like all these different things, right? But like it's not about the haircut that's the shift, right? I'm still the same person. It's the internal stuff that's happening at the same time that I'm making external shifts that really leads to more profound freedom.
And at this time, I feel like not everybody, though, can, really get to that point of freedom in a sense that you offer, you inspire. So there's got to be, something we're missing, and I think we all have, but clearly you have a lot of the solutions. So when it comes to freedom, though, is it really about freedom, or what is it kind of about?
Um, See, we think of the thing outside of us as bringing us the freedom, but the thing is that the real freedom is inside. Your question is so good. It makes me think about Nelson Mandela. So when he was in the process of you know, freeing South Africa from apartheid, right, getting rid of that in that country, there was a period of time where he was imprisoned. He was literally imprisoned for life. And there were two prisons that he put himself in when he went there, right? One is a prison that he's physically in, and another was a prison of mind. And when you're in a prison of mind, that means that you're looking at your circumstances and feeling like you can't do anything. You're trapped. You can't do anything. There's nothing that can be done. Nothing will work for you. There's nothing possible in that trap, right? In that prison that you're creating for yourself. Um, and after I believe it was some kind of reflection or something that he did, he decided that there was something that he could do. Yes, he was in prison for life, but what he could do was start to write letters. And so he began to write these letters. He got picked up by the New York Times, and over time, as his message, as his insights went out, right, as these people were kind of emboldened to see like this man literally in a cage, but not in a cage mentally, he was able to obviously get out of prison, began to be the leader of South Africa. The end of apartheid came. There were just
Hmm.
all these things that happened. And part of it was him realizing not that like him releasing himself from the mental cage before he could release himself from the physical cage, right? Like I even have a client who, she's wanting to diet, right? And she's like, oh, this diet has worked for me in the past. Like I was able to stick to it for like 3 months. And I'm like, but then the diet failed. So the diet didn't work. If you're able to keep something for a couple months or you're able to do something for a little while, and then it fails, like that's not actual success. And beyond that, right? Like to have this attitude of like, I'm only going to feel good in my body when I lose a certain amount of weight or when I am a certain size or when my body looks a certain way. Like like that's a losing game because I've done that before. I've lost all the weight that I gained at a certain point and only felt more dissatisfied. And if you've ever hit your goal weight or any of those sort of things, like you may find that that's the same for you. It's like, yeah, I hit that goal and then I just set another goal and then eventually it just wasn't sustainable. So right now, just bringing it back a little bit to my real life right now. I am the largest I've ever been. I'm like wearing a size I've never worn before. And part of it is, this like this postpartum world that I'm still navigating, while being a single mom and dealing with all the challenges that I do have for sure. Um, and part of me, right, like in learning this lesson on a whole new level, like I was like, okay, well, like I'm gonna wait until I lose weight. I'm just gonna basically wear black. I think, Jill, like the entire time we've been doing this podcast, it's been like all black every
Yeah.
single day. And like literally it's what I wear like every day. And part of it was like decision fatigue, but part of it was just, like not really feeling good in my skin. And I was like, you know what? Like
Yeah.
the thing is, like, I deserve to feel good in the size I am right now. I deserve to feel good about my body. I deserve to feel like confident in my skin. And I shouldn't have to wait until I'm a different size, until some magical thing happens before I buy myself a new wardrobe, before I feel good in my skin. And that in and of itself is like the mindset shift, right? It's like, how do I begin to feel good now in the circumstances I'm in, knowing that this circumstance, this is a temporary cage, right? This situation I'm in physically is
Yeah.
temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Where I can create real transcendence is here in my mind. So if I allow for myself to say, hey, like, yeah, these are the circumstances, but that does not cage me mentally. That does
Yeah.
not stop me from feeling good right now. And that's getting back to your original question. That's really what we're looking for when
Yeah.
we're looking for freedom. We're looking for feeling good. We're looking for safety. We're looking to feel confident. We're looking to feel at peace. And we think that this goal that we have, this thing that we want is going to bring it
Mm.
to us. And the truth is we can find it for ourselves. We can
Yeah.
feel loved as we are, single or not. You know what I mean? Like we can feel happy right now. We don't need that thing. And when we start to realize like, oh, I can feel happy right now. Oh, I can feel confident in my skin right now. Oh, I can feel like great about what my situation is right now. That's when we begin to create this change that allows for the external to change in a much more massive shift.
Got it. Well, thank you for explaining this to us. Thank you for opening up. And, it's always hard to point out our flaws, our, down points and what's going on with us internally, but we're all going through something at some point. And it's great that we can acknowledge, we can own it. And with that grace and security and acknowledgement and honesty, that only brings you closer to the next step, I think, of change and of healing. And, once you come to the realization of what's bothering you, what's going wrong, what do you want, and it's always great to have these conversations. And if you're out there feeling stuck, which a lot of us are, right, in our ways, in any different way, whatever it is, just know you're not alone. And it's conversations like these that can inspire you, and working with someone like yourself that can inspire you to change and to get back to where you want to be in life, or somewhere where you've never been before, but you have the right to want, to feel, to change, and to live your best life in a sense, I'd say, right?
Absolutely. And so much of it comes not from just relying on discipline in the same ways that we have in the past, right? Like the thing is like having the high functioning anxiety, it's not a flex, right? So being on top of everything, it can feel really productive, but it's actually
Mm-hmm.
just fear in a professional looking suit. So like I think about when I was married, for example, and there was this like constant low grade tension in my body where I kept shrinking myself, right? Staying agreeable, accommodative, like quiet, instead of really feeling like I could be myself. And it was interesting because I think I've told you before, Jill, like And I mentioned a little bit earlier, but like I've done the thing of like living in New York, having the high stress job, and then moving to Hawaii, starting my business, transforming my life, my health, all those different things. Like I'd set that intention when I was like sick, had chronic illness, autoimmune disease, like I was losing my chef career. I was, like there was just so much loss going on. And I was like, okay, I'm going to create this and then I'm going to be happy. Was kind of the thinking, right? Um, and I did. I created all those different things, and I had I'd paired it also with like personal development work. So I was creating this internal
Mm-hmm.
shift. But one thing that I did not really account for was that like at the same time that I was making this shift and evolving, um, I wasn't with a person who wanted to continue to evolve with me. So where I was moving mentally and physically, like, obviously we were physically together, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
mentally, I was in a different space. Um, and I realized that there were ways that I was stopping myself from continuing to evolve because I knew
Yeah.
that my husband at the time wasn't comfortable with it, that it would take me away from myself. And so there were ways that I braced myself or stopped myself from doing what I knew um, I needed to be doing because I knew that it in some way like it wasn't safe, right?
Yeah.
And I was afraid of really pushing those boundaries. And I see that a lot of times with my clients, like they get to a certain point, but then the change stops feeling safe. And so
Mm-hmm.
they begin to revert back. And that's why I think it's so important for us to really have the internal shift. Because if we really want the long-term things, um, sometimes they do come at a cost, right? Sometimes there is a release of something. And like I like one of the exercises I do in my retreats is there's a fire ceremony. And it's really fun because there's this point where we actually get to write down all of the things about ourselves that we want to let go of.
Yeah.
Um, and we do a sacrifice. We sacrifice it in order to have the things that we actually want, right? And I talk a little bit about the law of sacrifice, which is that you have to give up something of a lower nature in order to have something of a higher nature. You need to give up the wood if you want to create fire. You need to give up uh, this version of yourself if you want the next version of yourself. So there is going to be this death, this sacrifice of who you are in order to have what you want. And I think that when we do that and understand like that there's real sacrifice in there and that it can actually be quite profound, that's when we begin to realize like, okay, like part of it is letting go of this hustle. This, I know how to work hard, I know how to hustle, and those are great skills. But when we just apply them over and over again without having an actual plan or strategy behind it, that's when we begin to get like overworked, burned out,
Mm-hmm.
resentful, all those things. So we got to look for, okay, if I'm really good at this thing, if this is my normal, if this is my comfort zone to take everything on and to handle it myself, then my area of growth is where I don't know how to do it, right? So if I don't really know how to ask for help, or I don't really know how to say no, or I don't really know um, how to let go of control or stop micromanaging, then your space for growth is in those areas, right? Like um, wherever it is that we tend to be more comfortable, our space for growth is in that opposite direction. And so it's not just about using discipline all the time or like forcing ourselves to do all the things. It's about looking for this like middle ground where it's like, okay, I'm disciplined when I need to be disciplined. And I also create space for things so that my life is not so rigid type of thing. So I find that that's like also really, really powerful is to just realize like, I don't want to be that person forever, right? Like I don't want to be shrinking myself or stopping myself from doing what I know I need to do. And part of that is like beginning to use and employ different tools.
Got it. All right. Thank you so much. And we still have plenty more time to talk about how, you're helping people, how you're savoring life, how your retreats as well, the one-on-ones, and, to kind of, still, focus on today's conversation. How did you want to kind of sum up this part of the discussion in a sense?
Yeah. Um, well, I would say like, again, it's this understanding that there is that like one of the things that we talk about in my coaching programs is like you think it's about getting the thing, right? You think it's about having that, and actually like the gift that you get at the end is the version of yourself that you become.
Mm.
It's the identity shift that you get as you gain more confidence, as you gain more courage, as you gain more more strength, right? Like it's not about like the defined abs, or it's not about like the however much in your bank account that you want, or it's not about the client roster. It's really about who you are and how you feel. And it's that level of like peace and confidence and like strength that you get when you're doing inner work and not just running from it. Like so many times I see people and they just are like chasing one plane after the other, looking for happiness or looking for like something. And all of those things are great, but they all expire. And that's why I love these retreats, because it's like, okay, let's take that vacation, let's take that trip, but let's actually make it meaningful. Let's do something that actually shifts us down to our very core and isn't just something that like, is us hopping on another plane only to come back and feel more stressed out again.
Need the vacation from the vacation. We've talked a lot about that. That happens a lot to so many.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's like this question of like, what are the chains that you're still bringing with you after
Hmm.
you've left the cage, right? And again, that's us having this opportunity to look at like what are the patterns that we're bringing? What are the things that are comfortable for us when we need to begin to pick up different tools, right? Because if you lean one way, the idea is always if we're going to create balance, like how do I do more rest? If I'm really good at hard work, how do I get much better at like leaning into rest in a way that's really intentional, feeling good about it, not just performing it, but like truly allowing my body to relax type things. And honestly, like a lot of that work is hard, which is why in my retreats, like we also do work in my coaching, we do work to begin to repattern the subconscious. Because it's very important that we're not just like, again, changing what's going on outside. Like our subconscious is like if you think about the Pareto rule, the 80-20 rule, right? Like the subconscious mind is doing 80% of the work. So if we do all this conscious change, right, in terms of like changing what we notice in terms of what's going on outside or what we notice, that's only 20%. The real
Yeah.
fundamental changing is in the 80% in the subconscious, and that can take years to form and to change. And the healing work that I do actually allows for us to experience those changes in months. So not decades, not years, but literal months. So like within 3 months typically I'm seeing a shift in my clients. And um where even things like, they'll say, I had one client I remember who she said that it was like a 50-pound bag of rice being lifted off of her body.
Really?
And it led to not just like a physical change where she was losing weight and like feeling better, but she also experienced just like a muscle tension release. So like issues where she thought that she was going to need like back surgery and all this stuff, she ended up not needing because she was able to get to the root of the problem instead of just fixing the symptoms, fixing what seemed like what was going on externally, like the pain that she was feeling.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you for that. And do you want to share another story or two before we go? We still got time.
Yeah, um, well, I think this is our last episode, which is so exciting.
Sad, exciting and sad. Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's time for freedom for a next
Yeah,
chapter, right? And I do honor like there's sadness behind it, right? Because it is a last, it is an ending. But to me, that also just signifies like a beginning, right? Like I said, the version of us today, this version of us, I would say like to my clients, I'm like, look, this version of you, the version that's not confident, that's sad, that feels stressed out, this version of you is going to die. Um, and it's your choice if she dies or he dies with your body at the end of your life, or if
oh,
he or she dies earlier. And when you allow for things to end, when you allow for things to close, and you're intentional about what opens next, there's so much power and like excitement that can come. So in this next phase of my life, right, where like I'm going to be wearing less black, and where like it was funny because like even cutting my hair was like I let my hair down, and I did like a quick reel about it or whatever. And I had so many friends who were like, "Wow, I didn't even know how long your hair was because I just kept it up all the time."
Back. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like, for me, it was like a reflection of the truth that like I was carrying so much weight and like showing it to anybody. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like nobody knew how much I was carrying. Just
Mm.
even like on my literal head, right? And same with like wearing the black, right? It was like it's this feeling of like hiding. And so in this next phase, like I'm looking forward to opening up more and to shining more and to like feeling more like the true version of myself who's lighter, and like all the other stuff, the external stuff is going to catch up to that. And but the easiest way for me to get there is for me to accept where I am, to find peace here where I am, knowing that that internal peace, creating that's going to help me break out of the cage that I feel stuck in, right? Or that you feel stuck in. Just like Nelson Mandela, right? Like, so creating those letters, like breaking yourself out of that mental prison is going to allow for you to break out of any physical prison or physical limitation that you find yourself in.
Got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, how do we end off for this show forever? Well, till next time. Maybe there will be a next time. It's not goodbye, but yeah. How do you want people to contact you, reach out, and your last words?
Yeah, so you can find me on savorlifewithdiana.com. You can find out information about my retreats, my coaching, speaking as well. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Diana Bejasa Speaks. So that's DianaBejasa Speaks. Um, and yeah, it's not goodbye. It's see you later. It's see you in Hawaii. It's see you in New York, right? There's just so many different ways that like there are beautiful evolutions happening for us. And
Hmm.
and yeah, I think it is about like honoring the grief of a chapter closing, but also holding the joy for what comes next.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. Pleasure having you here. Been great to know you for so long. And we'll, one day I'll venture out to Hawaii and I get to see you, I hope. Okay. Best of luck and keep in touch. All right.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, sweetheart. Have a great day. Bye bye, Diana.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.